May 14th, planning board meeting. First thing we have is to approve last month's meeting minutes. We paid some bills, as always. We had public hearings for the Elliott Bowsman lot line modification, for the Beagle and Holdings LLC wetlands application, and for the English Virtue wetlands application. Everything here looked fine to me. Yeah. So I make a motion to accept the April 9th planning board minutes.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a bunch of invoices. The first is for the Times Review Media Group, publishing of public hearing notices. It totals $77.77. It's for two applications, the Dunn and Radigan, the Dunn Wetlands and Radigan Lot Line Adjustment. It's a necessary item. So I make a motion to accept the Times Review Media Group invoice in $77.77.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have two invoices from the Rayner Group. They split their invoices between subdivisions and wetlands permits. So for last month, the subdivision and site plan review totaled $1,567.50. For wetlands permits, it totaled $1,196.25 for a total of $2,763.75. Subdivision dealt with the Radigan lot line adjustment and review of the West Neck Creek cottage minor subdivision and attending the meeting. Oh, also more with the site review for the White subdivision, which they have concluded. For wetlands permits, reviewing Wards Point, Dune, and preparing a memo for June. Very helpful as always, so I make a motion to accept the April Rayner Group invoices, the amount of $2,763.75.
Get that.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have an invoice for the New York Planning Federation for membership, $295. This is a very valuable item for us. We get all our continuing education from them and get included on various upcoming notifications, planning statewide. So I make a motion to accept the 2024 town membership dues for the New York Planning Federation in the amount of $295. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Last invoice of the evening is for EHA, and this totaled $815.62 for the month of April. They prepared and attended the planning board meeting, reviewed correspondence with John Wagner for the 6th Daniel Ward Road lot line adjustment, unit deeds for such, and preparing the public notices for Radigan Dunn. Very helpful, something we definitely need. So I make a motion to accept the EHA April invoice in the amount of $815.62. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me. We have 3 resolutions to review and act on. The first is the extension of approval of the lot line adjustment for SH29 West Neck LLC. And Robert Lipsight and Lois B. Morris. They are stuck at the county clerk, as far as I understand, and trying to record the deed.
Right, waiting for it to come back.
That's how I understand it. That's what they seem to
And
indicate.
to get it back.
So this resolution will extend them to their deadline to June 10th of this year. So I think that's acceptable. So I make a motion to Move resolution number 16 of 2024 for SH29 Westneck LLC. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second one is a resolution approving the lot line adjustment for Elliott and Bousman. As we had the public hearing last month. As we've learned, this is really just trying to correct paperwork to allow them to go to the health department for renovations on the Elliott property. And just had to deal with a subdivision that was made, or a lot line adjustment that was made back in the 90s or even earlier. And it just corrects the mapping problems. So I think this is good to vote on. Does anyone have any comments or questions about this one?
Yeah, it's bringing a lot more to compliance. Yeah. All good.
So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution number 17 of 2024 for the Elliott and Bousman lot line adjustment.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Last one deals with the Beagleman Holding LLC wetlands application. The applicant is seeking a wetlands permit to construct new waterside deck, 98.1 feet from mean high water with 2 square feet in adjacent regulated area. For the reconstruction and expansion outside footprint of a new patio and stairs at the swimming pool, and expansion seaward holding a 90-foot setback from high mean water with 228 square feet in the adjacent regulated area. Replace existing threads, risers, and railings on existing stairs to bulkhead and vegetative buffer. New coping and reconstruction of existing swimming pool within footprint of adjacent regulated area. Regating area and vegetative buffer in an adjacent regulated area. Demolishing 104 square feet of steps in the vegetative buffer and adjacent regulated area. New stone walkways and that are in both the ARA and the VB. We had a public hearing for them last month and generally felt the application was acceptable. With respect to the statutory requirements for a wetlands permit, the planning board finds that the proposed applicants meet the criteria set forth in 129.5 of the town code. Specifically, the board finds that the proposed project will not negatively impact the value, function, or size of the wetlands. The applicant's project is bulkheaded and proposes minimal work within the ABA and VB. The limited work, along with the environmental improvements to the property, will positively impact the wetlands. The proposed project will not have a negative impact on the quality or quantity of groundwater because applicants are proposing to remove an existing undersized conventional sanitary system that is located within 100 feet from the mean high water mark and replace it with an IA system that is landward of the residence and set back approximately 225 feet from mean high water. The relocation and upgrading the sanitary system will have a positive impact on groundwater. The applicants have demonstrated that the proposed project will not create a net increase in the risk of runoff because the installation of drainage structures to collect and recharge runoff will mitigate any negative impacts to the wetlands. Moreover, silt fencing established and maintained during construction will limit runoff from entering the wetlands. The proposed project is the best alternative because most of the applicant's project is outside jurisdiction. The limited scope of the project within the wetlands jurisdiction will be offset by the mitigation proposed by the application. Conditions of approval name the site plan prepared by Sherman Engineering Consultant, 4424. Have to put in the, maintain the 10-foot landward of the bulkhead, the wire back silt fencing, install stormwater dry wells. Property shall be revegetated in accordance with the approved Jason Thomas Architect Site Plan. So Beth, is that dated? Is the date of that plan noted in here? I think maybe we should add it if it isn't. So we have a reference.
I'm wondering if I didn't put it in because it didn't have one.
We don't have a plan?
There's a plan. Put it.
File in front of me.
Eagle man. I think. One second, yeah, I'm looking.
It's probably. I have most of it. 55 Graham Allen, right?
What do you need? Is, I need to come in. Yeah, do you have the landscape plan? Is there a date on it?
The proposed site plan has the most recent date,
That's
February 1st.
Oh, that was updated.
I'm sorry, that was
January 26th.
26, 24.
Vegetation plan, yeah. Yeah, you need site plan, vegetation plan. Here's vegetation I have,
Jason Thomas
Jason
Architect,
Thomas
the
Architect,
date on it?
I'm looking. Very small print.
It's 126, I'm looking at it over here. Yeah, 126, 24.
Okay, good. I think it's it.
The laws revised.
Okay, so I just, like to amend the resolution to include the Jason Thomas Architect Site Plan dated January 26, 2024. The applicant's going to install a 5-gallon per minute supply well for energy, water conservation. And upon completion, the town's environmental consultant will review that what work done has conformed with the architect's plan, Jason Thomas's landscape plan. Any questions, comments from you guys? Okay, so I make a motion to accept Resolution 18 of 2024 for Beagle Holdings LLC wetlands application. Do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's the, next thing we have are public hearings. We have 3 today. The first is the English Virtue Wetlands application. It's a continuation from last month. We kept it open for 6G Hager Road. Please come up and tell us what you've done.
I'm actually Leah, and I'm the architect of the project. And we very much appreciate your previous review of, and we've revised our concept for the project based on your suggestions from the April 9th hearing. So we submitted a revised site plan and also a revised survey. And they show that the proposed construction areas will be limited to 100 square feet. we're no longer proposing to remove portions of the existing decks. The proposed deck to replace the existing as-built deck will be limited to 64 square feet, and the deck and steps that are proposed on the other side of the existing sunroom will be limited to 36 square feet. Also, we're limiting the proposed overhang. It was 4 feet beyond the deck, but we're limiting it so that it doesn't increase the coverage. And instead, we're proposing a decorative 2-foot overhang on a nearby wall to help give a better scale to the volume of the house. And since it will not have a deck below it, we hope that won't be counted in the coverage calculations. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And thank you so much for your continued consideration of the project.
The roof overhang you're talking about is the one that's on, if you're looking at the water on the right-hand side to match the one on the other side.
Yeah, the height of it below.
Right, it's up, it's fairly high up, but it's, so it's going to be smaller than the original.
It's smaller.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only 2 feet. It's,
Let me see if that
I
doesn't.
think New York State Building
Yeah.
Code
300.
permits a eave overhang of 2 feet generally. I think that's a standard, so
that's good.
I would feel comfortable,
Yes.
comfortable
It
with
just
that.
looked right, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone in the audience have anything they'd like to add to this? Anyone in Zoom have any questions or comments regarding the English Virtue application? If that's the case, I make a motion to close the English Virtue wetlands application. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This next application, I'm going to open the public hearing and then adjourn it to next month. The CAC has not yet had a chance to submit their comments, and so I think it'd be fair to wait for them
Public notice?
to actually continue the hearing. But let me read the public notice. Notice is hereby given that the following hearings will be held at the Shelter Island Planning Board on the 14th day of May, 2024, in person at the Shelter Island Town Hall, 38 North Ferry Road, Shelter Island, New York. Applications are scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter. The public hearing regarding an application for a wetlands permit by Charles Dunn, the property which is the subject of the application is located at 18 and 20 Tuttle Drive, Shelter Island, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map number 711 to 16 and 17. The applicant is requesting a wetlands permit as is required pursuant to Town Wetlands Code 129-2 to demolish an existing residence with walkways, concrete pad, and patio within regulated area and to construct a pool, spa, and patio and second floor deck totaling 1,434 square feet within the adjacent regulated area. And as we had discussed last month, this would be a secret class type 2. So as I said, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn this public hearing until our next meeting on June 11th. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we have another public hearing for a lot line modification. So let me read the notice. Again, notice is hereby given that the following hearings will be held by the Shelter Island Planning Board on the 14th day of May, 2024, in person at the Shelter Island Town Hall, 38 North Ferry Road, Shelter Island, New York. Application is scheduled to begin at 7 o'clock or soon after. Public hearing regarding the application of Rick Radigan for a lot line modification of land purportedly owned by him, located in the A District, Residence District, with frontage along Hillside Drive and Community Drive, which parcels are identified on the Suffolk County tax map as 714-247, which is lot 1, and 714-249, which is lot 2. The application proposes to transfer 7,009 square feet of land from lot 1 to lot 2. As a result, the lot area of lot 1 will decrease from approximately 47,524 square feet to 40,515 square feet. And the lot area for lot 2 will increase from approximately 43,358 square feet to 50,367 square feet. This is also a secret class type 2, as previously discussed. Matt, I believe you're representing the applicant. Do you want to walk us through?
Yes, good evening, Matthew Sherman, Sherman Engineering and Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Rick Radigan, property owner on these two properties. There's really not a whole heck of a lot to add other than what you just mentioned. It's a real straightforward lot line change, sliding over 7,000 square feet from one conforming lot to another conforming lot. Both lots end up still conforming when the day is done. Everything is pretty much about as straightforward as you're going to get on an application. If you have any specific questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Anyone have any specific questions?
It legalizes the shed too.
I think that's the whole reason for this is
So the lot line change was discussed prior to the shed, and in the excitement of building the shed, he kind of got a little ahead of himself. So this does mitigate that problem, yes.
Rick, excitable?
I know.
Must be Tuesday.
Anyone else in the audience have an interest? No one here. Anyone on Zoom have any comments or about this application? If that is the case, no comments. I make a motion to close the Radigan lot line adjustment application, public hearing.
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
That's the end of our business meeting. Looking at our current lot line modification subdivision applications, we have the Bloom Minor subdivision. They have until July 11th. I believe the IA system has been scheduled and is going in soon.
Yeah, next time.
Couple weeks. I haven't heard what they're doing with the well, but whether they're putting in a new well or tapping into the West Neck Water District, but I think we'll find out more soon. The White roadway construction is now complete. Joe submitted, went and looked at the property, and everything is in place.
Monuments have been set, vegetation's in place. Did a nice job.
Good.
Yeah, the road looks
When's
good.
that one been open?
Oh, I won't go there.
Before I joined the board.
Is there anything that, since we have this, is there something official that we should put together, a letter to the Whites, to the CPF, to the town board to say that the bond is no longer needed? Is there, what is the step with this, or is this letter sufficient?
The town board's the one who has to release the bond,
Right, so I have to
Yeah.
write a letter to the town board.
saying that they've satisfied the conditions of the performance bond and
Sounds like they should have a graduation party or something.
It's just phase one.
Been going on too long for that.
This is just phase one. 6 Daniel Lord Road LLC, 3 Borough Hall Lane LLC lot line adjustment. Just waiting on, Beth's reviewed the deeds, and we're waiting on proof of filing. Once we receive that, then I can sign the plat. They have it also to July 11th to submit. Elliott Bowsman lot line adjustment, we just approved it. And that gives them to the 12th of November to submit deeds and record them with the county. And I'll add that on the date onto the next agenda. Radigan lot line adjustment for 5 Community Drive and 8 Hillside Drive. We just had the public hearing. Are there any special conditions that you guys can think of that you want? Or is this just a straightforward lot line adjustment approval and allow them to proceed with the changes?
It's like no harm, no foul, kind of.
Okay, so Beth, if you don't mind, please prepare the
Problem.
final resolution for that. And Matt, I guess you can start on the deeds already. Right, jumpstart it. West Neck Creek Cottage subdivision is 64 Westmoreland Drive, and we have Joe's memo. Joe, do you want to briefly discuss this one?
Sure. The applicant is proposing to subdivide a 2.71 acre parcel into 2 lots for single-family residential use. There'll be a park area that represents 10% of the site, the overall parcel. Site is improved with a single-family residence that has a covered wood porch, wood deck, dirt driveway, 20 by 4 foot wide catwalk that provides access to water. The proposed minor subdivision, be 2 lots. Lot 1 will have total area of 50,552 and will be 44,670 square feet, excluding wetland. This lot is vacant. Lot 2 will have a total area of 54,923 square feet and will be 50,223 square feet. All of the existing site improvements are located on lot. The park is located on the southerly side of the property. Park has an area of 11,800 square feet, which represents 10% of the overall site. Including wetlands, the park area is 12,497 square feet. The applicant intends to retain, if the applicant intends to retain ownership, the homeowners association will be needed. In the alternative, the ownership of the parcel might be transferred to the town or an entity like the each of conservancy of current land. 100-foot wide wetland setback that extends landward of the upland edge of tidal wetland is shown on the plan. A small portion of the existing house and wood deck within that 100-foot setback. All of these items are set back approximately 85 feet from the upland edge of wetlands and outside the 75-foot adjacent regulated area. Sketch plan shows a small bank that exists on the property's frontage on West Neck Creek. And the top of the bank has an elevation of about 8, the bottom has an elevation of about 4. There's no fire protection devices within 1,000 feet. The subdivision will have to be referred to the fire commissioners to determine if any fire protection devices are needed. Mentioned above, the site has frontage on West Neck Creek and contains tidal wetlands. Tidal wetlands permit for the subdivision will be required. The New York State DEC. Subdivision approval from the health department will be required. Okay, the applicant should note that obtaining subdivision approval from the health department can be a rather lengthy and detailed process. The existing sanitary system on the site will need to be shown and certified by a licensed engineer. If the sanitary system does not comply with current standards, health department will likely require it to be upgraded. Due to its location on West Neck Creek, subdivision will have to be referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission for review. Final plat will need to show monuments set at each corner of the subdivision boundary and need to change the direction of the boundaries. Map contains building envelopes for each lot. They are helpful at the sketch plan stage. Building envelopes do not have to be shown on the final plat. Proposed map entitled Minor Subdivision Map, West Neck Creek Cottages, dated April 1st, 2024 is acceptable. Therefore, we would recommend the planning board consider scheduling a public hearing on this matter.
I have 2 questions.
Mhm.
One is, in the past, the parkland has always had to be accessible from both properties. We've always done that, and this one is on the border, only accessible from the built structure. So I don't know if that is whether this needs to be reconfigured, so it's in between the two lots. Or, so I think it's either the parkland set aside, the way I understand it, is open to the public. So that's if Nature Conservancy or Conic Land Trust had it, then that could be used for everyone the public to hike and go use it. The other way that I've seen it done is that's put between the two properties, say, to be used by both properties. And then it's not open to the public use, it's just for the use of that subdivision. So I don't know what the legal statute is behind that. Beth, do you have any idea of what the thought is?
I think in my experience, the park areas have always been for the subdivision use,
Right, so.
not for the public.
So then it would have to be fronted by both properties, so they both could get to use it, not off to one side for only one property's use.
Well,
Just trying to remain consistent with previous applications.
Here. Right, but it's, but it's like a long,
Yeah.
The reason why we put it on
Road.
the far south is so that both could get to it. It's contiguous with lot 2 with the building on it, but the other building can get to it by using the road.
Yeah, but in every other application, we've always had it in between, so there was more of a direct access on, I'm even thinking of Stivers subdivision that I had part of. And it was set up where the strips were in between properties so they could both gain access of it. It's not just, this could very easily, not saying that, the owners would do it, but very easily in the future being blocked access to other properties, the other property, because it's so hard to get to, you have to go out to the road and come over. It would be a lot equitable if it was between the two.
one possible issue might be the fact that the existing house, if you put the park there, it may be too close. Yeah, they may not meet required setbacks.
That's what put it to the south.
No, I can understand that. But it looks like you have, the lines could be moved a little closer to the house, creating that narrow strip. And it'd be, I'm just trying to think this through, how it was dressed in previous. I'm not here to.
But also, we're discussing it just as if hypothetically they're gonna retain ownership, but as Joe's memo says, well, what happens if they do transfer it to
Yeah,
Nature Conservancy, then
well,
you have to have public access, Beth, so how would?
yeah, and I think it would behoove
Still
them
don't have to have public access. No.
if the Nature Conservancy agrees to take it on. I don't see it taken on.
No, the
Why would they
Nature
take the
Conservancy
liability?
takes larger parcels.
And the Peconic Land Trust, I wouldn't see them taking on, why would, or the town because of the liability.
Town's not gonna do it.
It's small.
The other question is, this is more of a scheduling thing. I thought we didn't have a public hearing before a sketch plan. We only did public hearings during the final submission. Am I off on that? I don't have the flow chart in front of me. If I'm wrong, I'd love to.
Can you just go chart?
It's not in here. I looked.
It's not that.
If I check the code,
You probably, maybe, you probably have it right. I probably am off.
Flow chart?
Yeah, yeah. Is that for a lot line?
I think it's the only one I have flow charts on.
Submission,
Isn't subdivision.
there's a lot line.
Yeah, I don't have one for that.
Yeah,
I don't have a subdivision flow.
flow chart has the sketch plan,
Oh,
Then secret.
connected to secret, and have a resolution and then submission of a final application, which would have.
And then you have the public hearing in the future. Yeah. Okay. Correct. So we'd be ready for secret. I'm just now would like to resolve this
Before you go through all that.
before we go through the secret. Revolve. Because right now the house is 20 foot off the line. So if this moved over 20 feet, then you'd have that 20-foot strip, which is even larger than what's being proposed for the flag of the parkland. And there would be a possibility of making it wider by the street or wider by the water. And then it's contiguous to both
I'll look at that. I'll look at a couple of
properties.
Before you go through all the secret and everything else, you might want to consider that.
These small subdivisions, don't we like waive the park requirement?
If it's not in the nearshore peninsula, but if it's in the nearshore peninsula, we don't have the chance to waive it unless they're very large lots. So
I'm
that's,
just trying to think who's gonna go down there. You know, there's so much parkland down there.
so again, if it's in between the two properties, it just affects the building envelope. But both property owners could use it as they seem fit. And I think then it would avoid the HOA potentially.
I see what he's saying, because this guy can get out and just use
So
it.
yeah, I'd have to come out here
Right.
and here.
Not too bad.
But I
You
know
say
of
that
other
it's-
places people on Nostrand who've blocked the public access and, gardened it for their own and not allowing the neighborhood to get down there, so,
Well, that's wrong.
yes.
It's harder, it's between them.
They'll still try though. It's,
But they would still need a homeowners association. Somebody has to own that parcel. So
so the way, Stiber did it, the one subdivision I'm familiar with, he actually split the parkland in half. So half was owned by one parcel and the other half was owned by the other parcel. But you couldn't put a dividing fence in the middle.
We talked about a similar thing with the one out on Nostrand Parkway,
Right.
50-foot buffer.
I remember
So
that,
each
yeah.
of the individual properties would own that, and then it would be a conservation easement, yeah.
Right.
But on the one that you're talking about from the past, did they have to come back with another application to do that splitting of the parkland, or was it just?
No, it was part of
part
the,
of
so
whole-
it was just a covenant that was put on
Yeah.
each deed
Okay.
that said this portion of your property is part of your parkland to be accessible by the other property. So that's one possible way
It's a possibility.
of avoiding the complicated HOA.
It seems a little odd to me that one owner has to go out to the street to come back,
Yeah, yeah.
and why does the other one not have to? I don't know. This seems a little illogical.
Otherwise, it's fairly straightforward to me.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind,
That's fine.
throw something back at us and
Really on
we
that.
can, and then process secret so you can go to the health department, because I know that's the tedious part. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the end of the lot line modifications and subdivision applications. Other business, this first item's been on the list for agenda for a couple months. I think it's not worth rehashing. Right now, we are handling the 100 square foot exemptions, but only as to whether it has been used in the past and available, but nothing else. I think that's going to change. I've been on the Wetlands Code Committee as we're reviewing changes. I think a lot of very good improvements have been made that are beneficial to the environment. And part of this would be some better standards for the 100-foot square foot. There's some additional definitions that clarify some of the ambiguity of the old code. And so it's met twice already. One big stickler for me is one other member is really adamant about a 100-foot setback. Because but not substantiating it with science and just saying the number, he likes the number. And I'm really struggling with that and the fact that it has to be defensible in court. And I'm not quite sure that just a pretty 100 number is defensible.
So
But
so instead of 75 and 25, it's like just making it 100?
yes, just no construction within 100.
Well, you know, I thought about that once, during COVID. I thought to myself, what is the best way to analyze if the adjacent area should be as restrictive as for 75? So I went back through our old applications, and this took like many, many hours. And this word came to the back of my mind, cumbersome. This is going to be cumbersome. And I kept studying it, and this voice came and says, there's a reason why it's 75. You know, it's the reason why the DEC has it at 75.
Yeah.
Because.
And that's the most stringent.
Yeah, and make it to
Thing they have.
100. You see, most lots are an acre, 200 by 200. So you restrict half of their ability to build on right away. You know what I'm saying?
And the 75 was from the DEC, wasn't that based on some scientific data, as my
Yeah,
understanding was?
yeah. They regulate to the 10-foot elevation and then the 75-foot setback.
So have they come out with anything more recent in terms of science-based as to why, like, the township should go with 100, or was it
We're,
just?
I mean,
we've been told that they're working on updates. I know they just updated their freshwater wetlands code.
see, the thing is, if this were the year 1652, starting from scratch, knowing what we know now about the dangers of runoff, we would be back 200 feet everywhere, you know? But if you think about it, if we did it that way, we wouldn't have a lot of things we love. We wouldn't have a Wade's Beach, we wouldn't have a Crescent Beach, we wouldn't have Bridge Street, you know? So we're in this sort of limbo where we gotta, you know, take care as best we can, but we have to be in reason. Someone's been paying, you know, taxes on a buildable lot for, you know, many
Well,
decades.
it's pre-existing houses. There's so many, and this would then all of a sudden
That's a big
put
problem.
everyone into the same problem that Carpe was in, or some of these others. I'm fully supportive if there was some science behind it, but just someone telling me they like the number just doesn't
I
flow.
mean, I think more is better, but you gotta do what's reasonable, you know? You can't do the impossible.
So this is continuing. We're meeting again on the 30th of the month. And for our third review of what's been, or fourth actually at this point, what's been drafted, so. The next item is site plan review. I've been assigned to a new committee. The town board is now thinking of giving site plan review back to the planning board. After we had it, took it away from us, it's giving it back to us. Feel this.
It's like, you have that, but we're taking that.
Yeah. Total whiplash here on all fronts.
Depends which way the wind blows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so there's a recognition that the current code has a standard of review that's not part of the code. It's an addendum to the chapter, and it's really hard. It's at the top, and a little button, you have to know what to hit to pull up the addendum. It's really it's just out there. So the idea is to possibly go back to what the planning board work did with some modifications to appease some worries. And that meeting is tomorrow. And I'm meeting with Ben and Amber on that one. So we'll have more for that coming up. Wetlands permit applications to Soros, we're still waiting on updated information. The surveyor, I guess.
Yeah, I got the updated survey. I'm having them clarify a couple of things, so I'll have that in here hopefully for next year.
Awesome. We just reviewed the English Virtue At the public hearing for 6G Hager Road. I'm happy that everything's been pulled back to the 100 square foot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Use
I was
of
so worried
the,
about that.
use of the exemption. The roof overhang, I do think the code permits up to 2-foot overhangs. So that's a non-issue for me. Any other thoughts about that?
No, just.
I mean, they're removing a significant portion of the deck. So it seems to be beneficial to do that.
That's a good improvement.
All right, so let's go through the criteria for permit issuance. The proposed action and location will not create a risk of impairing the function and value of the wetlands and buffer. I think it's a fairly minimal, small ask. And as you said, they are removing some of the structure. The proposed project will not diminish any wetlands in size unless the approving authority finds that the proposed action is water dependent or requires access to the wetlands as a central element of its basic function and will result in the minimum possible alteration or impairment of the wetlands. This really has some, it doesn't really affect the wetlands at all. It's, I'd like to call it turf property, existing property, but it's not really so shaded, it's not turf. Proposed project will not have a negative impact on the quantity or quality of groundwater. I believe they're adding dry wells. If I remember, it's correct.
Yeah.
So that's an improvement.
Net positive.
Net positive. And then our typical comment of use of wire back silt fencing, I think. The applicant has demonstrated there are no practical alternatives which allow the project to be constructed outside the regulated area. They're fully with the existing structures fully within, so there's really nothing they can do.
They're not trying to make a grab for more, so.
But yeah, they're just, yeah. The applicant has submitted information to describe alternative site locations and configurations sufficient for determination that the proposed work and location would have less of an adverse environmental impact than any other practicable alternative in order for it to be approved. And yes, again, they've reduced it.
Yeah,
So
they took our feedback and
Yeah.
made it better.
Yeah.
Good.
So I think, are there any other conditions you guys are thinking put on it?
We gave them the conditions about the roof line and a few other things last time, and it seems like they've met them.
The one thing we would have been asking for is the 5-gallon per minute well. Do you think that's important on this?
They're right on the water.
Is there a water issue there?
What are they doing? What, they're putting in
It's a
the
different parquet,
Tub,
very
Well-
similar.
yeah. And a tight lot.
Okay, yeah, they should,
Here's the- Let's look at those CAC comments quickly again.
Actually, standing on their lot, I felt very much like we were standing on Carpe. It just it really sloped and everything.
There's a lot of
It
tight
was a
little
lot.
lots, and a
Yeah,
lot
it's-
of houses.
That's an elevation, that big, yeah, that big berm, that big drop down.
CAC had questions about the environmentals flagging and bulkhead plans. They just use the bulkhead line as their setback, which I think is fine.
Yeah.
They had CAC had some questions about their site plan. They gave us a landscape plan, which should answer all those. They wanted a vegetative buffer at the bottom of the slope. I think that's provided by the landscape plan. Provide a vegetation plan, which that they've provided. One thing the CAC asked for was a new IA sanitary system, but they're not expanding bedrooms, and there's
I don't
nothing
think-
there to
it'd be
really
wonderful, but
enforce
we
it.
can't force them to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems extreme for what minimal change there. So.
Well, given the location, and what we've done in the past, I personally think that we should make them put in a solar pump. It's just my feeling on it.
That's fine with me.
Anybody else?
I'm good with it.
Is that mainly because it's the hot tub? Is that because they don't have, do they have a pool? I'm trying to remember now.
No, they're not
It's
putting,
just a-
they're just doing a tub, and they're actually just.
They're removing an old one
Yeah,
and moving it outside the 75 foot.
with something like that, I think I mean, I don't think it's any big deal to make it a 5
Small
gallon.
house, don't remember that.
But actually, you know, if it is a small house, you're required to put a water tank, a large water tank in the basement with an additional pump for storage. I don't know if they have the room, you know, their proximity to put it. So
You
maybe
also have to
that,
tie your condition to what the work they're actually doing.
yeah,
So is the pump gonna offset any impacts of the
No.
work that they're doing? There has to be that nexus between your conditions and the
so I'll back away from that.
application itself.
In the Carpe example, they weren't necessarily changing anything interior either.
Yeah, they
Oh,
were
that's right.
adding.
You're right, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, it was more extensive.
Okay, so I think just a straightforward resolution would be awesome.
All right, I'll back off.
Thank you, Beth.
We just push first step.
Let's try.
So done, we're waiting on the,
The right thing to do.
done for 1820 Tuttle Drive, we're waiting on the CAC memo.
Yep.
Next week. And Rish at 4F Peconic Avenue, do I have 2 volunteers? Like that.
It's my neighborhood.
I can do it, I haven't done one in a while.
You should just down the road for me.
All right, I'll give it to
No,
you. No, go ahead.
You want, you're already doing so much.
That's fair.
It's easy to get to.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I'll-
Okay, we'll get together again. Yeah, it's even closer to you.
We have a memo from Joe on this one. Joe, do you want to walk us through it?
Just got this, right?
Yes.
Okay, we were talking about this.
Reach.
Located on 4F Hidden Path or 4F Peconic Avenue. Property is 51,380 square feet to the mean high water line. If you exclude wetlands, the area of the lot is 40,880 square feet. It's a difficult site to work with. It's basically a peninsula. The water on 2 sides is an area of bulkhead, but the wetlands really constrict the buildable area on there. In fact, everything on the lot is within 100 feet of the wetlands. There's only a small portion of the driveway that goes down the flag strip that gets to Peconic Avenue. But it's not within 100 feet. Essentially, the application is to remove the existing sanitary system, which, given the age of the house, is most likely, it's just a 1-ring cesspool. There's no septic tank. It's just this, you know, this ring. No idea what the separation is, the groundwater. And it's only 33.6 feet away from the wetlands. The idea is to replace this system with an IA system. And with the IA system, they're using they're using galleys, and they're also in the system, there'll be a lift station so that they can provide a little bit more separation between the bottom of the galleys and ground.
A lift station is basically a boat has a holding tank with a macerator that shoots effluent uphill. That allows them to get the effluent to a higher table than having a gravity system, which you have to get the right pitches for. So it opens them up to allow to get a higher separation.
And the health department has approved the system. They've also received approval from New York State DEC for the work that's involved with the construction of the system. Unfortunately, because all of the work is within 100 feet of the wetlands and most of it is within 75 feet, it's not permitted. That's why there was a rejection letter on this project. So that's basically where we stand. It's something that sounds like it would be a no-brainer. Get a sanitary system that isn't functioning out of there, put the IA system in, have a greater setback. It's 58.6 feet from the galleys to the wetlands. You also have a greater separation from the bottom of the galleys down to groundwater. Unfortunately, it's not permitted in the code.
A very strict reading of the code, I would say. I think I would argue that this is an existing structure. It's a huge improvement. Instead of having a single, very old cesspool that is probably on the verge of failure. And this is a modern system that really reduced nitrates, it protects the water. So I would argue that this is improvement, and the Wetlands Code Committee is working on tweaking language on this, but I think we have the ability to override the code on this one issue.
How big is the footprint of the IA versus the existing?
The IA, this existing probably is just an 8-foot diameter ring,
Yeah,
and
it's kind of drawn in.
it's all behind the house under the
It was
parking lot.
it was in our packet, it was on the table.
So
Yeah, it looks like it's 28 feet.
these are all the galleys in the house, and you can see the single ring for the existing.
Yeah.
So it's really moving it all, and that's the closest point of the galleys. It, obviously gets much further away, so. We're gonna have another application to Soros, is the same thing, in the near future, so I think,
Conversation on it?
and the health department has they approved these, even though they have it in their code no closer than 100 feet, is that it's the best fit scenario. It's an improvement and worthwhile. There's no other place to put it. It's just basically,
Seems worthwhile at least having a public meeting, let's talk about it.
yeah.
It's a situation.
Well, we're gonna set the public hearing soon.
Where the law is getting in the way of doing the right thing.
And on this one too, as far as the health department is concerned, we got a variance for it, but it was an administrative variance, a minor variance they refer to it as. So you don't have to go in and do a hearing or anything like that, because it's, as you mentioned, it's a no-brainer. They'd be negligent to tell us no,
Even the health department.
even the health department.
A quick question, do they stamp it with the variance stamp?
I don't know if that was, I believe there is a variance stamp on that.
It does mention, it was approved according to the Board of Review.
Subject covenants or?
Recommendation dated 4/26/22.
Yeah.
There's covenants and restrictions that are involved.
All right, well, I feel comfortable setting the public hearing on this one. Right, you guys?
What do you think, Beth? 'Cause I don't want to get in trouble.
I guess my question would be, I'm surprised that the building inspector considers it a new structure, considering that there's a existing septic system on the property. I would think it would be easier for the building inspector to deem it that you're replacing an existing structure, an existing sanitary system, and therefore it's a permit, just needs a wetlands permit.
No, the reason he needs a wetlands permit because it's any regulated activity in or over the wet, within the regulated area entirely or in part.
Right.
It has nothing to do with with it
In
being.
the chart, if you look at the chart, it's where it says
Right,
NP and all the different things, it says new sanitary system, existing,
you're right.
and that's where it differentiates. There it says permit, wetlands permit or whatever. I forget what the code.
NP as opposed to.
Yeah, and then the other one is, and then new sanitary system, to me, would be on a vacant lot. If you want to put a sanitary system, the lot's been vacant, there's been no house on it, there's no sanitary system, you have to meet the setback. You don't get the choice of getting a wetlands permit because you have to meet.
This is replacing existing.
This is replacing an existing. I mean, that's why I guess I was surprised that it's not, the way where it was, I printed it out actually, where he said, hey, the cited table lists no new septic systems. Well, he's interpreting that as, this is replacing an old
Just a
septic.
quick read on it, like ask.
I'll tell you what, why don't I go speak to Reed about this?
Because then I feel like the board's not circumventing the code as far as you don't have the authority to ignore
Code.
the code as far as when something says no permit.
No permit needed, that's what it means, not,
No, where it says when you're not permitted, like to issue a permit.
what does the
Vegetative-
chart say? I can't,
It's a septic,
Right,
New,
so
no.
septic changes to existing, PR,
permit required.
Right.
required, and then septic new, no.
Oh, see.
So this is-
It was a quick read on
This
it.
is a modification of an existing system.
Uh-huh.
Right, see, he's saying it's
So
a
permit,
no.
permit required. Where's he?
Right.
He's not saying no.
He said new septic systems as no for not permitted.
I think, yeah.
Where am I reading this?
I'm reading on his,
Commons letter.
yeah.
Best thing, please note,
what's the date on your?
mine says 4/19.
14, yeah, same.
So he writes,
Foresight.
it says, permit required states that any regulated activity in or over within the regulated activity entirely or in part shall require a wetlands permit unless it is specifically exempted or allowed without a permit, as indicated in the following table. Where cited table lists no new septic systems as no for not permitted.
All right, let me talk to him.
Yeah.
But it should say PR because it's an
Yeah.
existing system.
I think it's.
And maybe he was
Yeah, and
just,
then and then permit required. That,
we all work, we cut and forth, paste with these forms while we write them. And it could very well be he just didn't. So let me get that. Let me speak to him.
clarified.
But having said so, let's set up a public hearing. Can I ask you to write that notice on? Thank you. Okay. We have one wetlands permit exemption to review, which was Ward's Point Holding LLC at 3 Shorewood Court. I went to the building department, checked their files. There was nothing there previously used as 100% of their 100 square foot exemption. I looked at the satellite photos. There's nothing that's been built 100 feet from the wetland setback. So in my opinion, and I don't know if you guys spent some time looking at it.
But Joe did the memo on this one.
Yeah, but that was first they applied as an application. We said they couldn't because we are not allowed to
Right.
permit. So we're working on the new code revisions will permit these things. Or hopes to clarify them. But we are just now looking at, right now, is whether the property had ever used or currently is used their 100 square foot exemption. And my research indicates they have not. Not, since the adoption of the Wetlands Code, which is 2021, is what we've been discussing.
This is the one where they're doing the stairs.
Right, down to West Tech, well,
This is very similar to those two Ram Island identical in a way. And it's being, applied for by Costello again. So,
Well, technically, they haven't used it. they'd be eligible.
Correct. That's my point. Are you guys in agreement?
So the stairway section to the beach is 98.5 square feet.
That's what they're proposing.
It's on-
They haven't used it, it's not used it. And it's really not going to disturb much of anything.
So that's such time the town wants to change that 100 foot exemption, but it is what it is now.
Yeah.
so.
So that's just the top, on the top deck.
They're not building the top deck, it's the staircase
Okay.
from the lawn over the bluff to
So
the
they start-
beach.
Okay, okay.
And that's 100 square foot, it's just a staircase with a small landing in the middle. And a small landing on top, the way I
That's
understand.
100 square feet, and they can do that.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
So Beth, you had that memo, is easy enough to cut and paste and just update that. Awesome. Special permit applications, 5 Winthrop Road and 1 Pandian Road, they're on hold per the town. But has the town voted on giving the jurisdiction to the ZBA on these?
You're not dissolving moratorium.
So these are still on hold and still on our sheet, but they're potentially on our agenda sheet, but they're potentially going to go to the ZBA and not be ours. Anyone on board have anything they'd like to talk about tonight?
The last meeting, I saw it online, but
That was a long time ago.
It was also a long meeting.
Anyone on Zoom have any questions or comments? If not, I make a motion to end the May 14th planning board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
yeah.